Hi, my name is Cathy Tombaugh, and welcome to the YouTube channel. If you are new here, I share videos for parents who are concerned about their teens or young adults. So today what I wanted to do is talk about the CRAFT approach. And CRAFT stands for Community Reinforcement and Family Training. And it's an approach that I have found really helpful, and I know other parents have too. So let me back up for a minute and start where, at the beginning where I started with my kids. So it's been actually about 15 years, but when I discovered that my children were using substances, and of course I was extremely stressed and not sure what to do, as you may be feeling that today. So I was told to go to an Al-Anon group, and which I did. I went to several in my area, and I found a parents group that was very helpful. I met some really great people. There actually were a couple parent groups in my area, and I found some good ideas and resources there. I think Al-Anon's really great with around the idea of self-care, learning to set boundaries, really taking care of yourself and not getting so sucked into the issues of your child. But as my journey went on, I then learned more about the CRAFT approach, and that's where I was trained in that, as well as many parents across the country have been trained in the CRAFT approach. And I happen to just be a coach as well, so I kind of wear both hats. But today I wanted to share with you a little bit about the CRAFT approach, because I think it's been so helpful. And like I said, many parents have found it to really help them with their children as well. So the CRAFT approach was created by Dr. Robert Myers, who is professor at the University of New Mexico. The Center for Motivation and Change picked up the CRAFT idea, and together, they looked at Dr. Myers' work and some of his colleagues' work, and they wrote the book Beyond Addiction and the 20-Minute Guide. And then Dr. Myers also is the author of Get Your Loved Ones Sober. I have interviews with Dr. Jeff Foote from the Center for Motivation and Change and Dr. Myers. So I will put those links in the show notes so that you can check out those interviews and learn more about them. So the idea of CRAFT is that substance use is a complicated problem. It often starts in the teen years when our children's brain has not been developed. It usually doesn't completely develop till 24, 25. And our teens often can be struggling with things like ADHD, depression, bipolar. Some of them have mental health issues, even like bipolar or even schizophrenia. Also, they might have experienced a trauma growing up. You may have genetics in your family, which can also be an issue with the brain chemistry of your child. So there's lots of things that can play into why your child has decided to go down this road. And it is a complicated issue. One size doesn't fit all, although there definitely are some similar, there's some similar paths that people take, some similar characteristics. Everyone is really on their own path when it comes to addiction. So the next thing I really like about the CRAFT approach is that it helps with understanding. It's very important to really get to the root of what your child is going through. And again, every size doesn't fit all for this, and you want to know that you're not alone, and that there are millions of other families, unfortunately, that are also struggling with substance use. But the more you can understand what's going on for your child and really understand what addiction is, the better off you're going to be, and the more support you're going to be able to give your child. The next piece about CRAFT that I like is the idea of self-care. This is a long haul for parents. If you talk to any parent who's had a child dealing with addiction, sometimes it can last for years, sadly. Hopefully some people get through it in months, but many times young people start in their teen years and they're well into their 20s, and sometimes even until their 30s before they finally are ready to get some help. So self-care is really crucial. It's an important piece and something that will help you stay resilient. You want to also manage your emotions when it comes to substance use and trying to work with your child. So if you get too emotional, too upset, that isn't so helpful. I know we all can get into the idea of trying to discipline our kids out of this, but that has been shown to not really be so helpful either. So what I like is that the CRAFT approach does give you tools that can help you be real and be clear with your child, and strategies that really any parent can use at home at any time. Another part of craft is that your words matter when it comes to substance use and how you deal with it with your child. Craft really emphasizes positive communication, listening to your child, validating what they're saying without judging them, which is not to say that you condone their substance use, but it's a way of letting them know that you're listening to them, and that you're not putting them down, and that you understand that this is a hard thing that they're going through. Empathizing is also really important, to really feel like you're walking in their shoes, you understand how they feel. This can go a long way with them wanting to share with you, wanting to communicate with you. And for me, what stood out is, I believe the key really is, the more you listen to your child, the more they're going to be willing to listen to you. And that's really what we want. We want our kids to listen to us and to really think about what we're saying and not just tune us out. And the problem really with, you know, the yelling or the disciplining and all that kind of thing is, after a while, our kids just tune us out and don't listen anymore. So there's several conversation traps that the craft offers, and some ideas on how to communicate with your child that can be very effective. Some of the other strategies that I like about craft are things like parent collaboration, how you can work together with your spouse or partner to really get on the same page. Reinforcement, how you can notice what your child's doing well and let them know, acknowledge that. Because we know that when someone's trying to change, what really helps is they have someone behind them that believes in them and is noticing what they're doing well. I think our kids really have a hard time being able to pat themselves on the back. They really are emotionally drained for the most part. They have really nothing to give to themselves or to anyone else when they're just trying to get through the day by coping with their drug use. So these are very helpful things. Setting boundaries is also another one. Allowing for consequences, because we know the world can be your teacher. If your child feels like they get into trouble or have some negative consequences of their substance use, and you jump in and fix the problem for them, they really haven't learned anything, and there's really no need for them to stop using substances. So these are some other ideas from the craft that again, many other parents have found super helpful. So again, what I mentioned at the beginning is the Al-Anon approach. I wanted to just take a minute to kind of look at both of those. And I think they're both helpful. The one thing that I will say to parents is, the more you can put into your toolkit, the better. It's not that one's right and one's wrong, but I wanted to share a little bit of the differences. So as I mentioned, Al-Anon and craft really do both promote self-care, that you need to take care of yourself. You need to really try to stay resilient, because it can be very stressful for parents emotionally and physically, mentally, and relationships within the family unit can become strained. So it is important to really take care of yourself. The next piece is really the idea about boundaries and natural consequences, which I think both programs for the most part have in common. Boundaries are really important. You need to be really clear about what you say and follow through with that. So there's no, in craft, what I like about it is there's no set agenda. They aren't telling you need to say this, or you need to say this, or this is the right boundary, and that's not. Really, you know your child best. So the idea is that you find boundaries that you feel that you can follow through on, and that seem fair and consistent, and that you're letting your child know ahead of time. So I think craft goes into a little bit more detail on how to set boundaries. Natural consequences, I think both programs promote as well, that, allowing your child to feel the consequences, take responsibility for their actions is super important. I think it's also important to keep safety in mind. There are going to be times when you may feel like, oh my gosh, my child could really be in danger if I let this consequence happen. So those are things you need to think about. But again, overall, in general, you're going to want to let your child feel the consequences of their use. The main difference, I believe, between Al-Anon and the craft approach is Al-Anon has messages such as let go, let your child hit rock bottom, detach with love, those kinds of things. And the idea behind it is understandable. Yet I've talked to many parents who really feel like this is not something they're going to do. They're not going to let go of their child. They've raised their child from birth, and you know, they're not letting go. And I remember when I was going to my child's treatment program, we were doing the family weekend, and one of the counselors said, now if your child relapses and she knocks on your door, you're not going to let her in, right? And I was kind of like, you know, of course, all of us said, oh yeah, that's right. But in my mind, I was like, well, you know, I really can't see slamming the door in my daughter's face. I mean, that just wouldn't be what I would do. For some parents, I know that has worked, but I think there are other parents who have found that when they did let their child go, when they allowed them to hit rock bottom, their child did not come back from that. And so, you know, it's really a judgment call on your part. But with craft, there's quite a few other options that you can try first before you move to the idea of letting go of your child. So I think those are the main differences. Again, what I think that's valuable about Al-Anon, and I definitely say go to those meetings. There's meetings in many areas. There are not really craft meetings per se like there are Al-Anon meetings, but you'll meet people in your area that can be helpful. You can ask for resources from people in your area, and I think that's a very helpful thing too. And it's really nice to be in a room for 90 minutes with parents who will not judge you, who know what you're going through. There can be a lot of help with that. So again, I always say to parents, do both, pull in both programs if Al-Anon speaks to you. The parents I work with, some parents do that. They have both programs. Some parents only really like the craft approach, and so they have not found Al-Anon so helpful. So it just really depends. But if you are looking for other programs, another one to also help is Smart Recovery Family and Friends. That's another group that's similar. They meet, I think right now most of them are online in Zoom, but you can meet people there. You can have some tools, and that is more of a science-based approach like the craft. So I wanted to share these with you. If you want to know more about craft, I also will be putting down a link on my website that talks about the craft approach. It shows the 3 publications that have been put out about craft that are mainly for families. There's other ones for therapists and things, but those are the 3 I think mainly for families, with a lot of links and articles that you can learn more about it. I also have an online program, and I invite you to check that out as well, where I talk about some of the craft approach techniques and strategies and get into much more detail about how you can incorporate this into your ways of motivating your child to change. So check that out as well, and I'll put again the link at the bottom. So I hope this is helpful. I know it's very difficult when your child is struggling with substance use. So do hang in there and know there is hope, and there are millions in recovery. So know your child can be there too. And be sure, if you have ideas or if you've had experience with craft and you want to share that, please let us know in the comments below. And also any questions that you may have, be sure to ask those in the comments and questions below. And again, please, 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 if you can subscribe, and if you like this video, if you found it helpful, please give it a like. I just certainly would appreciate that. Thank you so much, and take care.